Hello, Jeff Zweerink here. Welcome to Science Faith Connection, the segment of our show where we explore important scientific topics and see how they relate to the truth of Christianity. Today, I'm joined by Dr. Leslie Wickman, and we're going to be talking about what she thinks is the strongest evidence for the truth of Christianity. Leslie, good to have you here today.
Great to be with you, Jeff.
So I know you have a PhD in engineering. You're currently working in an administrative role at Biola. I know you've done lots of other fascinating jobs. I think you got some astronomy background, even some football background. But really what I'm interested in today is you're a Christian, a scientist, and a woman. What is it that you see as the strongest scientific evidence that points towards the truth of Christianity?
Well, I always come back to God's two books of Revelation and how he's revealed himself faithfully, both in scripture as well as in his creation. And so I'm constantly looking to his creation to see what evidence there is. And for me, one of the strongest things is just the fact that it seems like Earth is a very rare planet, certainly in our solar system, possibly in the galaxy and even beyond. So that's one of the things that I love talking about. It's something that I share with my students all the time. And there's so many different pieces to that make Earth such a unique place.
So why don't you take some time, and what are kind of maybe two or things that stand out that make Earth rare? I'm presuming in its capacity to host life is what you're talking about there.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's been referred to as the Goldilocks planet, right? And as we see NASA searching for extrasolar planets around other stars, we often hear about whether or not an exoplanet is in its star's habitable zone. And so that kind of habitable zone, or the Goldilocks zone around a star, would be the location where the planet would have the right temperature range to support liquid water. And so that's kind of, we hear this all the time in the news. It's like, is that planet in the star's habitable zone? Well, that's kind of just the beginning point for whether or not that star or that planet may be life-friendly, right? So the fact that water can exist, not just as liquid, but in all three physical forms, so gas, liquid, and solid, supports the water cycle, which is necessary for life. And so that in itself does make a planet rare, but it goes beyond that. We have to have a planet of the right size in order to have the correct mass to give it the exact gravity, really to what Earth has, in order to have the right kind of atmosphere. So, close by in our own solar system, we see examples of planets that don't have the right kind of atmosphere. For example, Mars, which is a little farther out from the sun than we are, is a planet that has about 3/8 of Earth's gravity. And that's not enough to hold on to life-giving atmosphere. For example, we need oxygen to breathe, but we also need to be able to hold on to water vapor. So if you remember from high school chemistry class, water vapor weighs in at 18 grams per mole. Earth's gravity is just strong enough to hold on to large amounts of water vapor, yet not strong enough to hold on to the poisonous gases of methane and ammonia at 16 and 17 grams per mole. So we see Earth's gravity balanced on an ice edge, essentially, to hold on to life-giving water vapor and not to the poisonous gases, or at least not large amounts of the poisonous gases of methane and ammonia. So that's one little example, but there are so many more.
I remember when I was in college, one of my professors, we were talking about Earth's atmosphere and made just exactly the point you're making there, that Earth is massive enough that it holds on to the water, but not so massive it holds on to these poisonous gases. Your comments remind me of how often we talk about habitable planets. We'd see Mars and Venus and assume they're habitable, but we know from being close to them that they're not. So when you look at and see this balance and how well Earth is designed to support Earth or life, what do you see as the implication of that, or what is it that gets you excited about that?
Right. So, I mean, I just scratching the surface with this one example, but, the list goes on. I mean, universal parameters like the strength of the various physical laws, are just, again, balanced on a knife's edge, strength of gravity, the strength of the strong nuclear force, the strength of the electromagnetic forces. All these things are just so finely tuned. And actually, I mean, in reading a lot of reasons to believe publications, this is emphasized over and over again. And I think it was Hugh that actually came up with a probability estimate of what it would take to just get all of these parameters within the proper range of values so that life could exist anywhere in the universe. And that number is stuck in my mind as somewhere around 1 chance in 10 to the 280th power. And so to say we got lucky is, from just a random chance standpoint, ridiculously understating it. To put that number into perspective, there's only an estimated 10 to the 80th atoms in the entire universe. So even to pick just the one correct atom in the universe is 1 chance in 10 to the 80th power. And then if you imagine that maybe we do live in a multiverse, and let's say there are 10 to the 80th universes and 10 to the 80th atoms in each one of those. So to pick out just one specific atom in all those universes is still only 1 chance in 10 to the 160th power. So we're not even approaching the improbability of getting all these conditions that are necessary for life. And if, statisticians will say that once you move beyond chances on the order of 1 chance in 10 to the 50th power, it moves from the realm of statistical improbability to virtually statistically impossible. So those are the things that strike me, that, either we got just incredibly lucky, or there's intelligence involved in creating a place where humans can not just survive, but thrive.
So I'm this evidence of just the unlikelihood of finding a planet seems to point to there being a creator. If there is a creator and he's fashioned this earth, what do we do with those probabilities? What do you want to do with that information?
Well, first of all, I think it needs to be more well publicized, I guess. I mean, I think people within the scientific community acknowledge what they call it by different names, whether it's the anthropic principle or the fine-tuning argument or the teleological argument, goes by a lot of different names, but I think people that maybe aren't in the scientific community aren't aware of it. And I think it's a very, very powerful evidence for an intelligent creator. And so first of all, I think raising people's awareness to that. And for me, I kind of go a little bit further with it. And because of the fact that there have to be so many things that are just exactly right to support life, and coupled with the fact that Earth seems to be a rarity, it reinforces my call to stewardship. In Genesis 1, God over and over talks about he saw what he created and called it good, and then called us to be stewards of the good creation that he made. And so for me, I think it really emphasizes, Earth is rare, and there's so far as we know, nothing quite like it, certainly in our solar system and beyond, probably. And therefore, we ought to take really good care of what God so carefully put together for us.
Well, thank you, Leslie. I really appreciate your comments. It is true, when we look at this fabulous creation and the earth in which we live, we see abundant evidence that there's a mind behind it, that there's design behind the earth, that there's a creator for it, that creator has made it for us to live. And we see when we look through scripture that he's not only created it for us to live on, but he's also given us charge to rule over it well, and we want to do that. I would encourage you to go to reasons.org, search for Leslie Wickman, Wickman. You'll find her page and get a lot of resources that she's produced to help you see not only the evidence that points to the Creator, but how we take that evidence and tell others about Jesus.